Hello, everybody. So I want to talk about solar stocks again today. And they are down, they're down. I've selected 3 stocks that I find very interesting, whose stock prices are way down. And why are solar stocks down? These are high quality companies. They've had some of the best returns in the market that you can find, especially Enphase and SolarEdge. Why are they so down? Well, they're down because the market is focusing on the next quarter, and the next quarter is likely going to be flattish because we're going through a slowdown in solar right now. There's a little slowdown in the sales. The interest rates are high, and NEM 3.0 is coming. NEM 2.0 went away, which means that some distributors have too much stock, but this is temporary. This is temporary. Over the next 10 years, to me, the technology has not changed and the opportunity has not changed. The megatrend is still the same. What megatrend is one investing when they invest in solar? They're investing on this. They're investing on the bet that most residential homes will have solar one day. And, to me, it's about 10 years out. 85 to 90% of the homes 10 years out will all have solar on the roof. It just makes so much sense to me, which means that we are very, very early in the adoption curve. Right now, the US is at about 5% adoption of solar. So you drive around your neighborhood, about 5% of the homes have roofs. Europe have solar roofs. Europe is at about 10% adoption of solar. So regardless, we are very, very early in the early adopters. And, it's often useful to look at different countries that are further away of this adoption curve. For example, for electric cars, it's Norway. We often take Norway as an example for us to establish that, 70 to 80% of cars will be electric very, very soon. Well, Australia is the blueprint for the world when it comes to solar. And they are past 30% solar adoption in Australia. And so I believe the world is headed the way of Australia because solar just makes too much economic sense. It's just too profitable. It's too convenient. It makes too much money for people to ignore it any longer. And some of the quotes to tell you about the technology. A single family home, according to Tony Seba, has between 7 and 9 times more roof space than they need to cover their needs. And why would you want to have 7 to 9 times more roof space? Well, you want to oversize your system so that even on the coldest, shortest day of the year, and there's been a storm for 3 days, you still have enough energy to be entirely independent from the grid. That's why we're moving towards a world where systems are going to be oversized, where we're going to produce plenty of energy, more than enough energy for the needs of our full home, but also the needs of the average house's 2 to 3 electric cars. That's how much power we're going to have. We're going to have an abundant world of energy thanks to solar. Adam Dorr, right, Tony Seba's chief of research, did an interview a few days ago talking about panels lasting 40 plus years. Yes, they last 40 plus years. Oftentimes we say panels last 25 years. That's only because we're not willing to go past 70% loss in power. But if you're willing to cope with a 70% loss in power of your solar panel, you're 70% retaining of that power, so a 30% loss in efficiency. If you're willing to go through that and have panels that just have 70% of their original power, they last 40 plus years. Actually, they can last forever. They don't have mechanical parts. It's as simple as that. They don't have mechanical parts. They are very powerful technology. And my take on efficiency as well is that there will be a doubling. We will have solar panels that are 900 watts. Right now, the best solar panels you can get for your house right now, they're 20, 23, 22% efficiency of taking that power, that raw power from the sun, turning it into electricity. You're only turning 20% of that power you receive in the form of light into electricity. Solar panels are going to get better with time. This is the megatrend. This is the technology. The technology is not stopping. It is getting better year after year after year. But Mr. Market is short term. He's looking at the short term. And so we have opportunities in front of our eyes right now. And I've selected 3 players for this, which is the best solar stock video. 3 players that are all way down. So Enphase is down 55, let's call it 56%. SolarEdge is down 49%, and SunPower is down 72%. They're all at 52-week lows. I've selected these 3 because these three sell entire house ecosystems, because I believe that's where most of the money is going to be. I don't think the money is going to be in the commodity manufacturing of solar panels. I think that battle has been won by China, and China will be the supplier of solar panels for the foreseeable future. So I don't want to invest in solar panels. I want to invest in, where the value is provided, which is the home management system, the solar energy management system. It's the piece of technology associated with software that turns your house into a power plant. That's the technology that I want to invest in, those ecosystems. And there's three of them that I've highlighted. We have obviously the duopoly, that is Enphase and SolarEdge. They're head-to-head competitor, and they have at least to the end user, it looks like a similar solution. We'll see in a second why I think they're very different solutions. And we also have SunPower, and I've put SunPower in there because you may know that I love SunPower, because SunPower uses Enphase. You can see here, uses Enphase Microinverters. So that's why I love SunPower, because I believe microinverters are a superior technology. Anyways, these three stocks are all at 52-week lows. They're all heavily shorted. Right, 7%, 6%, 25% for SunPower. This is crazy. And they're all profitable, actually. Even SunPower on a GAAP basis is profitable. So they're all profitable. We don't understand this. Like, the market should love profitable companies like that, but no, the market makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense to try to understand. Even if these companies show earnings, they have net income, they pay hefty tax. Not necessarily what I like. I want my stocks to typically just be cash flow positive, and that's it. I don't want them to show any big earnings, but these stocks do that. So the market should like it, and no, the market hates it, because we're going to have a slow Q3. Maybe we're going to have a slow Q3. And to me, these stocks in their core product, they will see a tenfold adoption in their core product. That is my takeaway here. To me, we're going to move from 5 to 10% adoption of solar to between 50 and 85% adoption within 10 years. So if we move, like I said, the U.S. right now is about 5% of homes have solar on their roofs. If we move from 5% of homes in the U.S. with solar to just 50%, that's a 10x. That's the size of the opportunity. That's stunning, right? That's a 10x. And if you add that to the fact that new homes are getting built every year. We have about 1% new homes every year that get built in the U.S. So that's new added supply, and much of that supply is going to be actually getting solar panels. And that's part of the thesis of investing in SunPower. We'll see why at the end of the video. SunPower actually installs heavily on brand new homes. There's laws in different states, but especially California passed a law forcing single-family homes to have solar by 2025. So there's a lot of tailwinds. Tremendous tailwinds for solar. So let me just get started about these stocks. Kind of trying to investigate which is the best stock. And as I often do on this channel, I look at my way of valuing stock, my favorite valuation matrix, which is enterprise value over gross profit over revenue growth, which is a spin on the PEG ratio of Peter Lynch, except the PEG ratio is for mature companies that are optimized for earnings. My ratio is for hyper-growth companies that are nowhere near optimized for earnings. They're just optimized for gross profit, which I think most of these companies are in this situation, even though gross profit may increase a tad for all of them, but they are roughly in this situation. And if you look at the valuation, we can see that Enphase is the more expensive out of the three, SolarEdge is the second cheapest, and SunPower is the third cheapest. And this metric right there answers how much am I paying for each percentage point of growth. That's the question that you ask when you look at this number. And you see that each percentage point of growth for Enphase costs you more money than each percentage point of growth for SunPower. Now, speaking about the growth, you may ask, why did I choose 30%? Well, I chose 30% growth, revenue growth, for all three for the next 12 months and the foreseeable future. Well, first of all, I did that because I'm conservative. A, but then B, because the estimates are all over the place right now. The analysts don't know where to look at. These estimates are heavily linked as to when we'll have a drop in interest rates, because I think when interest rates drop, we will have a rush of people trying to get solar when interest rates go down, and we don't know when that's going to happen. So the estimates are all over the place. So I decided to take a 30% revenue growth estimate, which is conservative for these stocks, keeping in mind that Enphase has grown its sales by 52% per year over the past 5 years. SolarEdge has grown its sales by 39% per year over the past 5 years, and SunPower, which has had earnings that are revenue that is a little bit more choppy. SunPower is a bit of a choppier company, but if you do year over year from last year, it's 34% year over year in sales. So I think by putting 30% here, I'm being fairly conservative. So will the cheapest stock win the question of the best stock? That is the question, because I'm not looking for the cheapest stock in this video. I'm looking for the best. What is the best solar stock in my view? Well, let's start with Enphase. Enphase is the most expensive stock of all three, but it is also the stock that has had the greatest prior growth, and it is the stock, in my view, that has the best technology, the microinverters technology. Per my framework, when I look at my usual average on the EV over GP over RV, that average is usually a 0.55, a 0.6 sometimes. So Enphase is about 10% undervalued. Enphase makes a lot of money now. Enphase has great cash flow, and they have actually just announced a $1 billion buyback program, which will further increase their earnings, right? If you're reducing the float by 5.6%, and if their last buyback is any indication, they would likely do this buyback in 1 year. If you reduce the float by more than 5% in 1 year, you're increasing your earnings by 5% in 1 year. I would rather see them invest in things like marketing and other forms of support for their customers and their installers, but there's a lot of value investors that actually own the stock. Now the stock has become a value stock. I mean, it's more than halved. It has more than halved compared to what it was. It was at 100, at 300. Remember that, not too long ago, at 300. Free cash flow to the firm, Enphase is $588 million, so it's trading at 30 times free cash flow, which seems expensive in absolute. A 3.3% yield seems expensive in absolute, until you factor the fact that we have a 30% revenue growth for the foreseeable future, in my view, and that's a conservative estimate, right? We're going to see, in my view, a 10x in the number of solar roofs in the US within the next 10 years. So who's going to benefit? I think it's going to be Enphase. Not to even mention the crazy tailwinds that we have from the IRA. Tremendous tailwinds. So that was Enphase. Now let me move on to, so Enphase, I believe, to me, is still the best stock in the three. But let me move on, and we're going to analyze the next two to see if they get even better than Enphase. So now let's talk about SolarEdge. I know many of my viewers have been wanting to know my thoughts about SolarEdge, and I've done a few videos on SolarEdge, not that many, because I don't like SolarEdge as much. SolarEdge is I'm going to name them the cheapest leader, because Enphase and SolarEdge are both the leaders. SunPower is a tiny player, tiny weight. SolarEdge and Enphase, big weights. It's the cheapest of the two. But my humble opinion for SolarEdge is that they have the wrong technology for the solar market and for solar ecosystem. And please don't hate me for saying this. It's just an opinion. We don't have to agree on this. But I don't think it's the best way to go, because microinverters to me are the future, and I do not own SolarEdge. I would own SolarEdge if they announced the microinverters, and they certainly could. I mean, they've developed optimizers. So this is how the ecosystem for SolarEdge works. So you have all of your basics, your interface, right, to interface with the grid and the system. You have your app to monitor your system. You have your electric meter. You have your EV charger, of course, for your electric cars. The energy bank, of course, for using electricity at night. And you have what they call here, which is the energy hub, which is their fancy way of calling a string inverter. This is a string inverter. You have a string inverter, and the string inverter is connected through a single wire, sometimes 5,000 watts DC. It's DC coupled, so you have 5,000, sometimes more than 5,000 watts that can run through your house to your roofs, and then it connects to these power optimizers that you put under each panel. And these power optimizers do the same quote-unquote features as microinverters. So they do the same good thing as microinverters in that if you have, say, leaves on one panel, not the whole string is going to be diminished. The whole string is still going to be operating at max capacity, even if one panel is dirty or one panel has leaves or anything like that, or shadows. That's what they do, right? That's an optimizer. They also have obviously the shut-off switch, which now many cities require. Like keep in mind, it's not like if you're going to see SolarEdge. In many cases, in many cities with many city codes, you don't have a choice but to put an optimizer because fire departments require you to have a shut-off at the panel level. So you don't have a choice but to purchase a optimizer per panel, right? The old way of doing solar, where you just have a string going to the panels without a shut-off at the panel, those days are slowly becoming gone. Maybe it's different in Europe, but in the US, it's the way it is. So you have optimizers, string inverters, and then the ecosystem. The ecosystem has nothing wrong, by the way. The rest of the ecosystem is just fine. It's great, works great company. My problem is with the string inverter. And so the question is, this is how it is right now for SolarEdge, right? So for SolarEdge, you have string inverter and an optimizer. Why would you have that? Why wouldn't we just simply eliminate the string inverter, eliminate the optimizer? So we eliminate this product and we eliminate these products. Keep in mind, one per panel, $117 per panel, and almost $2,400. So why don't we eliminate these to replace them by a single product per panel, which is called this? It's a microinverter. Why don't we just use a microinverter and put one under each panel and then eliminate the need for optimizers and eliminate the need for string inverters? And the answer to that question is there's no reason why we wouldn't. That's why I think it's the superior technology, microinverters. And SolarEdge, if you go on the SolarEdge website, they still have these fancy videos where they promote their optimizers and they tell you, microinverters, you can't install them for the modern solar panels because the modern solar panels are too powerful, and so you're going to have clipping. That is, you're going to install a microinverter that's like 250 watts on a solar panel that's 500 watt or 480 watt, whatever. And of course, they conveniently left out that is the IQ6. That is the old model. The new models of microinverters are just as good as optimizers, and actually some of them go even higher than 500 watts. So this is a 500 watt power optimizer, and this is a 500 watt microinverter. So that's the same. So the issue of clipping is not the same, right? Enphase did not get stuck in time. They've updated their product with the power of a solar panel. So really the selling point, is very tenuous at best. And it's tenuous at best because you have to pay an installer to go on the roof under each panel and set up one of these under each panel, plus the string inverter. If you do Enphase, the installer just has to put a microinverter under each panel, and they don't have to install the string inverter. And actually, even if the microinverter, as you see here, it's $199 for the IQ8A, which is a 500 watt one, versus $117 for the optimizer. So you have a slight difference in cost, right? Between the two, a little more than $80 in cost. But even if you do 23 panels, multiply by 80 and change, so you can see that the extra cost to choose microinverters over optimizer is only $1,800. It's $1,800 of extra cost. But you eliminate the string inverter, which is $2,300. That gets eliminated. So actually, in many situations today, you're going to be cheaper if you get a microinverter. It's going to be cheaper in many situations today, which is crazy when you think about it. And what do you gain for picking the cheaper solution? Well, you gain many advantages. You get a 25-year warranty out of the box, as opposed to a 12-year warranty with a string inverter. Right? You get no single point of failure. That's the problem with string inverters. If this thing fails, you're going to be out of power until the installer comes and replaces it. Right? That can't happen with microinverters. You can have one fail, but if you have 23 panels, you have 22 panels left. right? You save tons of time to your installer, because your installer only has to do this operation once. They don't have to do a string inverter as well. Not to mention, a lot of installers know how to work AC. They don't necessarily know how to work DC that well. And, this is an AC coupled system. This is a DC coupled system. There's fewer electricians who know how to work DC. These string inverters, and even though they've done a lot of progress as to making them light, they're still well over 40 pounds, and so you may want to save your installers back. Installers that do this all day, they're very sensitive to things like the weight and lifting. And so you may save their backs. It's a minor detail, but it actually makes a big difference over the long run, right? You have individual panel monitoring and management, right? With an Enphase system, you can know, oh, my panel over there is dirty. Let me get the water hose and clean it up. You can know that with Enphase. You can't know that with string inverters. And you have a peace of mind, and this is a big deal. You have a peace of mind of not having a 10 kilowatt cable, 10 kilowatt hour cable go through your house. In the case of a big system, like a 23 panel system, you would have a 10 kilowatt hour cable, 10 kilowatt, not kilowatt hour, 10 kilowatt cable. That's a thick cable going through your house with 10,000 watts in it. Peak when it's peak sun outside. Can you believe that? That's very, very, very dangerous. And I think a lot of people are becoming sensitive to the issue of safety and electricity. But regardless of my opinion on microinverters versus string inverters, I'm more than willing to admit that there's a lot of very, very good salesmen out there. And this is a joke, but this is nonetheless what I think. If people are succeeding at selling hybrid cars, which from a technical standpoint make absolutely no sense, it's you're just doubling everything. If people are succeeding at selling hybrid cars, then SolarEdge can certainly sell their products still for a long time. So I'm more willing to admit that they'll keep selling quite a bit, and therefore we do the same calculation. Even though I believe they have very inferior technology, their adjusted EBITDA is $533 million. So they're trading at 17 times adjusted EBITDA for a EBITDA yield of 5.8%. Again, for a company whose revenue growth has been is going to be 30% in my view going forward, and has been 39%. So very, very cheap when you put that into account with the growth of these companies, right? These are not mature companies. These are yields you could expect from like a mature company like a Procter & Gamble, but this is not the case. This is a company that's growing much, much faster than your standard Johnson & Johnson or Procter & Gamble, if that makes any sense. And lastly, we have SunPower. And SunPower, I put this at the end as I call it a possible new peak, because SunPower is an outlier to me. It's a very cheap outlier, very inexpensive. What's interesting about SunPower is that they have a holistic ecosystem, just like Enphase and just like SolarEdge, but they have a unique focus on brand new homes and putting solar on brand new homes, and they actually have partnerships with so many of the top builders in the U.S. About 1/3 of what they do is retrofits, so it's a unique positioning. You're really positioning yourself with new construction. So that's interesting to me. What's even more interesting to me is that they're an Enphase customer. You can see here the microinverter that they use is the Enphase microinverter, and because of that, they have the superior tech in my view, which of course makes it very appealing if I wanted to ever diversify away from my Enphase. And they're trading at 17 times adjusted EBITDA, so trading the same as SolarEdge, which means they're similarly priced to SolarEdge, but one could argue they're actually more expensive than SolarEdge, given that SunPower is a much smaller company, right? It's a riskier, smaller company. So some could argue, it's more expensive when you take into account you pay the same price as SolarEdge, but SolarEdge is in a duopoly. SunPower is the smaller, quote unquote, riskier tech. But SunPower has the winning tech in microinverters. I think they show the right solution. And so to me, all that means is that the market is clearly placing a premium on stocks that use microinverters. And so we'll see what SolarEdge does. My view is, SolarEdge was able to develop optimizers quickly. It's just a matter of inertia. Very inertia right now is with the string inverters. Are they going to keep going with the string inverters and without inertia, or are they going to go through the innovator's dilemma and actually decide to move on to the next technology? Maybe not. But anyways, that's just the way it is. So to conclude the video, what is the best solar stock? Well, in my view, it's still Enphase. It's still the number one. And if I were to choose, and if I were forced, I would probably have a slightly more likely choice in SunPower than I would in SolarEdge, just because I have a hard time getting behind a technology that I don't believe in. It's like if you believe in electric, you're not going to invest in hydrogen, for example. And so if you believe in solar, you're not going to invest in wind. If you believe in microinverters, are you going to invest in string inverters? I don't know, but I'm more than willing to admit that these stocks are bargain. They're dirt cheap. Happy to own Enphase. Enphase is my second biggest position, as I have stated before. This was not investment advice. This is just entertainment. Hope you were entertained. Please appreciate your subscribes. Have a wonderful day.